Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
The second my Uber pulled away, I saw it. Or more like, I didn't see it. No red Camaro in the driveway. Just a long, greasy stain like someone had dragged my heart across the concrete and left it there to bake in the Miami sun. I stood there for a second, suitcase by my foot, feeling like I'd shown up to my own surprise party and nobody had remembered the guest of honor. Quick note, before listening, share in the comments which city or country you're watching from. And let's continue. 9 months I'd been gone. Warsaw contract. Building back-end payment systems for a German startup that didn't believe in sleep or weekends. Every goddamn night I crashed in another hotel, staring at the same lock screen. Me, leaning on the Camaro, smile cocked sideways, front fender gleaming under a Florida sunset. I missed that car like a person. I was 36 back then. Miami born. My name's Cody Price. Lived in Westchester since I was a kid. Bought that Camaro with the first real contract money I ever made. Parked it like a trophy under the jacaranda out front. Left it in the care of my cousin Leo while I was gone. He was supposed to be house-sitting, paying utilities, keeping the weeds down, and watching the car. That's what he said. Repeated it like it made him a mechanic, a bodyguard, and a saint. And now, gone. Just oil. Just silence. The front door creaked open behind me. Cody? Dude, you didn't text. Leo stood there barefoot, Dolphins hoodie halfway zipped like I'd just caught him halfway through a nap. I said the 21st. I didn't look at him. I was already walking inside. Yeah, but I didn't know what time, he called after me. I thought it'd be later. There were like parking issues. I had to keep it somewhere else for a bit. My buddy's garage in Alapata. Don't freak, man, it's fine. I went straight to the kitchen drawer where I always kept the Camaro's keys. Pulled it open. Empty. No fob, no spare, no valet tag. Except, wait, there was a tag. Thin plastic, cracked at the corner. Printed in some half-faded ink. 123 Auto Valet, 4/14. That wasn't mine. Where's the car? I asked, not raising my voice. I've learned yelling just makes me sound like my old man. And I swore I'd never carry his voice. Leo paused by the fridge, rubbing the side of his jaw like he was calculating how honest to be. Then he shrugged, like it was a parking ticket. I sold it, man. Things got tight. I figured you'd understand I didn't say anything. Just leaned on the counter because I felt like the floor might shift. My ears were ringing a little. He kept going. Got $3,200 cash for it. This guy who runs a lot over in Homestead said he liked the body. I mean, it needed tires and the AC. Last appraisal was $28,500. My voice was dry as drywall. Leo blinked. Yeah, but that was before, like, depreciation and stuff. Plus, I needed it fast. You were in Poland, sleeping, and my phone was dead that week. I stared at him. He was taller than me now. Same dark hair, but thinner at the crown. His eyes used to have this dumb loyalty in them. Now they looked like they were chasing exits. 10 minutes later, my mom pulled up in her Civic, pastelitos in one hand, purse in the other. She gave me a hug that didn't finish, then pulled back and looked me dead in the face. Cody, he's family. Don't explode. We'll sort it out. I didn't explode. I kept my mouth shut. I just walked to the hall closet and sat down on the bottom stair, trying to feel something other than cold. Leo stood on the porch like a bouncer with no club behind him, arms folded, mouth tight. He hadn't said a word in 10 minutes, not since my mom made him sit down and shut up. I didn't care where the Camaro was parked or what excuse he'd cooked up. He'd sold it, and someone else, some stranger, had paid cash for something with my name still on the title. Around sunset, a black Tacoma rumbled to the curb. A woman stepped out, late 30s, maybe early 40s, tight ponytail, jeans, Vans, and a gray tee with grease stains on the sleeve like she'd actually worked today. She had that look, the kind you get from too many arguments in too many parking lots. She walked up the driveway with a messenger bag over her shoulder and no hesitation. You Cody? She asked. Yeah. She offered a quick nod, no hand. Sophia Delgado, I'm the one who got screwed with your Camaro. Mom stood up from the porch chair, lips pursed like she didn't like the tone. Leo just muttered something under his breath. Sophia ignored them both. I buy and flip muscle cars. Been doing it since before Facebook Marketplace made it a side hustle. I used to work at Florida Highway Safety, so I don't play title games. Leo told me he needed rent money, fast. Offered me the car for $3,200, cash. Said he was helping out a cousin overseas. I didn't like how quick he wanted it, but the VIN matched, and he had what looked like a signed title. She opened her bag and pulled out a thick folder. Everything was tabbed and labeled. She handed me the bill of sale first. The signature was mine, except it wasn't. I knew my own hand, and this was a child's version. Shaky, stiff, and drawn like someone tracing over a photo. Then came the screenshots. Offer up listing. Craigslist post. One photo had my driveway in the background, bougainvillea creeping over the side wall like proof of address. Another showed Leo in the driver's seat, smiling like he just got away with something. I froze the deal after I ran a Carfax, Sophia said. Pulled it the night after I paid him. NMVTIS pinged an active lien through Sunwave Title Loans. I told him to fix it or give me my money back. He sent me a release form that looked like a kid's art project. Wrong seal, wrong letterhead. The font wasn't even close. Leo started pacing. You had no right bringing this here, he said. You don't show up at somebody's house with a folder like it's court. Sophia didn't flinch. I'm here to protect myself and the actual owner. Which isn't you. She turned back to me. When the paperwork stank, I went over the car myself. Checked the VIN plate, firewall, dash, all matched. But then I found something else. She pulled up a photo on her phone. Driver's side door sill. A barely visible laser etch. See price, April 19th. I forgot I even paid for it. Some add-on from a car meet, part security, part ego boost. That etch stopped me from filing anything. I've seen swapped plates and washed titles before. But that, she said, tapping her screen, that was real. You don't fake that on a whim. I looked at the photo and felt the floor tilt under me. Not from shock, from how damn stupid I'd been. I trusted Leo with my house, my car, my keys, and he used my name like a scratch-off ticket. Cashed it in the second things got tough. Can we all just sit and talk this through? My mom said. She had that voice she used during family fights. Too calm, like she thought tone could erase facts. He's family, Cody. There's always a way to fix things. No, I said. There's no we here. There's me, there's Sophia, and there's the person who forged my name and sold my car behind my back. Leo looked up. I didn't forge shit. Sophia raised an eyebrow. You didn't? You want to explain this then? She flipped the fake lien release out of her folder. My name typed in Arial. A notary seal that looked like it came from Microsoft Word clip art. She laid it on the porch rail like a dead bird. Where's the car now? I asked. My friend's garage in Alapada, she said. Behind a locked roll-up, not registered under my name. I'm not letting anyone near it until the lien's cleared. I turned to Leo. Give me every key, every fob, the title, and whatever you touched. He scowled. Sunwave has the title now. I only got one fob on me. I held out my hand. He hesitated. I didn't lower it. Finally, he pulled a fob from his hoodie pocket and dropped it into my palm. It was warm, like he'd been clutching it the whole time. Sophia packed up her folder and shouldered the bag again. Look, I could have walked. Taken the hit and flipped something else. But if I push a dirty title, I'm the one holding the bag. And honestly, I don't like watching people get hustled. She headed for her truck. My mom whispered something about coffee, but Sophia shook her head. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to not get screwed. That night, Sophia emailed me everything. Screenshots, timestamps, text logs, even the GPS coordinates from the Craigslist ad photos. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the screen, Each file a gut punch. This wasn't some slip, wasn't a desperate mistake. It was methodical, calculated. Leo didn't fall into this. He planned it. One lie at a time. I couldn't sleep that night. The house felt wrong, not haunted, violated. Like the walls were holding onto a secret I hadn't found yet. So I started looking. Not for ghosts, for what else Leo might have walked off with. First thing I checked was the garage. I knew what tools I owned. Every socket, every driver, every drill bit. That Milwaukee set? Gone. Torquey wrench my uncle gave me when I finished trade school? Gone. A $300 jack I barely used? Gone. And when I opened the small wooden case with my dad's Army insignia, his coins were missing. Just dust and the felt outline where they used to sit. I opened every drawer in the house like I was building an inventory for insurance. The little one by the back door where I kept cash for the yard crew had a folded note in my own handwriting from April. Leo, don't touch this. For the guys under it, 12 ones. 12. I left a few hundred in there, and I left trust. I pulled up the Ring camera feed from the garage. Lucky for me, the cloud save was still active, still backed up. I went back 3 weeks. At 1:13 a.m., there he was. Leo. Hoodie up. Hood on the Camaro popped like he was pretending to do maintenance. A minute later, he dropped it and rolled out of the driveway, slow and quiet. He came back at 1:37. Passenger door opened. Another guy stepped out. Not family, not someone I knew. Big frame, tight fade, carrying something in his hand like a case or bag. Leo parked like it was a routine grocery run, not grand theft. I paused the video, stared at the still frame, and realized this wasn't a one-off. This was organized. He'd gotten bold. Around 10 a.m. the next morning, Aunt Nora pulled up in her Lexus. Croquetas in a bakery bag and that face she always made when she was about to pretend things were fine. I opened the door before she knocked. I heard there's been some confusion, she said, walking in like she still had jurisdiction. There's no confusion, I said, leading her into the kitchen. Leo stole my car. She rolled her eyes and set the bag down like we were about to have coffee instead of a fight. He said you left him with permission to handle things. He had permission to water the plants, Nora. That's it. He was in a tough spot, Cody. You left him here without a lot of options. You know how hard it's been. I turned and opened the drawer with the empty tool tray. So I abandoned him? Is that what we're doing now? She didn't answer. Mom came in from the laundry room with a rag in her hand. We're not doing this here, she said. Not like this. Yes, we are, I said. Because I just watched video of Leo joyriding my car at 1 a.m. like he was taking it for a test drive. Aunt Nora pressed a hand to her chest like I'd just insulted the Pope. Cody, he was trying to figure things out. You weren't here, Mom turned on her. That doesn't make it okay. Then the hissing started. They moved into the kitchen, talking low and fast in that sharp Cuban-Spanish-English mix our family uses when things go sideways. I let them spiral while I checked my phone. Sophia had just texted me a lien screenshot. A crisp image from the Florida DMV system. Sunwave title loans. $6,800. Filed 8 days before she bought the car. Clear as day. Leo didn't just sell my car. He borrowed against it first. I opened my laptop, started searching my email. Nothing from Sunwave, but I found something odd. A forwarded Gmail thread. From my sister Renee to Aunt Nora. Subject: do not let him touch the car. 2 months old. Renee told Leo point blank to leave the Camaro alone. Told Nora to watch him. Said he'd been snooping around your stuff and had asked about the spare keys. Nora replied once with, I'll talk to him, and then went silent. I printed the thread and walked back to the kitchen. Mom was holding the croquetas like they might still save the day. Nora was pacing now, rubbing her temples like this was our fault. You said this was sudden, I said, handing her the paper. But this thread says you've known for weeks. She scanned the page, then sat down fast like the floor had shifted. I didn't want to snitch, she whispered. I thought I could talk him down. But he was. He said he owed money to someone. Someone who doesn't do payment plans. So you let him sell my car. Tears welled up in her eyes and I felt nothing. I'd already done the math. Gambling, side bets, parlays, probably sports, maybe cards. All that fast money garbage that works until it doesn't. Aunt Nora looked at me and said, I didn't know he was going to go this far. You didn't stop him either. She nodded like she accepted the weight of it, but I knew better. She was already rehearsing her defense for the next time someone asked. That afternoon, I sent Sophia everything I had, my registration, clear photos of the etch on the door sill, and one more thing, a shot under the fuel door. Years back, during a Gator's tailgate, I slapped a little sticker under there. Tiny green gator head nobody else would know to check for. I took a fresh picture and emailed it over with the subject line, "Still mine." By then it wasn't even about the car. It was about being 10 time zones away, working my ass off, while someone I trusted used my life like a vending machine. Punch the button, take what you want, close the door behind you. And the worst part? He wasn't even sorry. 2 days later, I was in my home office, about to log into a Zoom with a fintech client in Berlin. They were 7 hours ahead, already deep into their afternoon, and my laptop was still booting when my phone lit up with a South Florida number. Hello? I said, distracted, flipping through a notebook. Hi. This is Sandra from Sunwave Title Loans. I'm calling because your account is past due. We still haven't received the first payment for the lien on the 2016 Camaro SSI froze. I didn't even sit down. Excuse me? You're listed as the borrower of record, she said, like we were discussing a gym membership. Looks like the lien was filed last month for $6,800. First payment was due yesterday. We sent a notice to your mailing address. I didn't borrow anything, I said. I didn't authorize any lien. She said. I heard her tapping keys. Let's verify. Last 4 of your social? I gave them. She read back my VIN, my address, my birthday. All right, all accurate. I felt my throat tighten. Leo had everything. All my personal records, stored neatly in a drawer in the office. I never locked it because, well, who was I protecting myself from in my own house? I said, I want a copy of the lien paperwork. We can't email anything until your identity is verified in person or through a notarized form, she chirped. But I do need to let you know that if the default isn't cured or a police report provided, a repo request will be initiated later today. The line went quiet for a second. Then she added, our tow partner may attempt retrieval as soon as this afternoon. I hung up without answering and called Sophia immediately. She picked up mid-ring. I was about to call you, she said. We need to move the car again. I took it out of Alapata this morning. Plate readers are crawling over there now. They're coming for it, I said. Sunwave just called me. They're sending a tow Wynwood, she said. Secured bay I use for long-term projects. You drive over. I'll bring a locksmith. We'll park it, lock it, wait for cops and fraud investigators. I'm not playing defense anymore. 15 minutes later, Leo showed up at my door. No call, no knock, just standing there like a damn ghost with his hands fidgeting in his hoodie. We need to talk like men, he said. Too late for that. I didn't mean for it to get this far. You forged a lien. That's not an accident. I didn't forge anything, I just filled out what the loan guy told me to do. I stepped outside, door half closed behind me. Sunwave already called. They have my VIN, my social, my address, and they're sending a tow today. Leo looked like he'd been tased. Okay, listen, man. It wasn't what it looked like. I was just gonna borrow against it, then buy it back before you got back. That's not how this works. It's not stolen if it's family. I actually laughed. It came out cold and sharp, and Mom must have heard because she appeared behind me, eyes wild. That's it, she said. You have 48 hours to pack your crap and get out, and don't you dare come back crying to me or Cody. Leo turned to her like she was a stranger. You're siding with him? I'm siding with right, she snapped. Aunt Nora stepped out from the hallway, arms crossed, lips tight. She didn't say a word, just stood there like someone had hit her mute button. I left, grabbed the Civic keys and hit the road. On the way, my manager Annika pinged me on Slack. "You're missing Berlin." "Car emergency," I typed back. "Are you okay?" I stared at the message while I waited at a red light. "I don't know yet." The garage in Wynwood sat behind a chain gate between two warehouses. Sophia was already there when I pulled up. She waved me in, rolled up the bay door, and there it was, my Camaro, under a gray car cover, dusty at the edges like it had been waiting. I walked up to it and didn't say anything, just stood there, hand on the fender. "You want to do the honors?" Sophia asked, nodding to the cover. I peeled it off slow. The red paint caught the last sliver of sun from the overhead skylight. The tires were the same. The slight scratch on the rear bumper still there. It looked like mine, but it felt like something I was trying to win back. Sophia stepped up beside me. She crouched and pointed at the laser etch on the sill, "See price April 19th, then popped the fuel door and tapped her phone flashlight toward the inside edge. There it was. The Gator sticker I'd slapped there like a drunk idiot after a football game 6 years back. "Nobody fakes this level of petty detail," she said. She reached into her bag, pulled out a laminated paper, and taped it to the inside of the windshield with painter's tape. Bold black font. Hold. Title fraud investigation. Vehicle under dispute. It wasn't from the DMV. She made it herself. But it looked real, and sometimes that's enough. We locked the car and waited. 50 minutes later, a flatbed rolled up fast and hard, like the guy had a commission on the hook. Sunwave logo stenciled on the door. He parked crooked and jumped out before the engine stopped rumbling. "I'm here for a repo," he said, already dragging the hook. Sophia stepped right in front of him. "You're not touching it without a clean lien and a cop present." He blinked, then scoffed. "You a lawyer?" "No," she said, "but I know the law." He looked at me like I was the idiot. "This your car?" "Yeah," I said. "Well then, you got a lien on it, buddy." Either pay Sunwave or move aside, Sophia stood her ground. "We've already called it in. You hook that car without verification, you're getting hit with criminal interference in an ongoing fraud case." He paused, looked at the windshield, then back at her. "You can't just slap paper on a windshield and call it legal." "No," she said, "but if you touch it, we'll make it real legal real fast." The guy pulled out his phone and called someone, mumbled something about the car being under a dispute hold. Then he hung up, kicked the gravel, and got back in his truck. He rolled away without another word. I looked at Sophia. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just looked at me and said, "You're not out of the woods." But at least now they have to go through the front door. The detective showed up 20 minutes after the flatbed rolled out. Plain clothes, early 40s, short hair, thick Miami accent. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. I handed him the bill of sale, the fake lien release Leo had texted Sophia, and the printed listing with my driveway in the background. He scanned the papers in silence, then turned to the patrol officer who'd arrived ahead of him and said, "We're kicking this to economic crimes. This isn't civil. This is a structured scam." I felt something shift then, not relief, but confirmation. I wasn't overreacting. This wasn't a family argument anymore. This was criminal. The detective keyed his radio and gave dispatch a case number. "Place a state hold on VN ending in 4489. Vehicle is under investigation. No release until I say so." The patrol guy nodded and jotted notes. The detective turned to me. "You pressing charges?" Before I could speak, my mom stepped beside me and squeezed my forearm like she could signal me with pressure alone. Her eyes said don't. Her hand said wait. I pulled my arm back slow. "Yes," I said. "This is theft. This is fraud." The detective nodded once like he appreciated not having to ask twice. The repo driver, who was still loitering by the corner of the warehouse, got on his phone and muttered into it. Then he climbed back into the truck and rolled off slow, like I'd just ruined his commission check. Aunt Nora pulled in 5 minutes later, blue sedan screeching a little as she parked. She stepped out tight-jawed, with her purse in one hand and the other raised like a referee. "Cody, listen, he's still your blood." The detective didn't flinch. He laid the forged lien, the fake bill of sale, and the offer-up screenshots on the hood of his unmarked cruiser like evidence at a courtroom demo. "This isn't a family squabble," he said. "This is a scheme to defraud and grand theft auto." She looked at the papers like they'd bitten her. "He never meant it to spiral like this." "That's not a defense," he replied. "It's an excuse." Just then, my sister Renee showed up in her work scrubs, sneakers barely tied. She walked straight past Nora and handed me a manila envelope. "Printouts," she said. "Texts between me, Leo, and Aunt Nora from back in June. I told him not to touch the car. I begged her to tell you I flipped through them. Messages time-stamped. Leo asking where the spare keys were. Renee telling him flat out do not touch Cody's car. Aunt Nora replying once, then ghosting the whole thread. The detective took the envelope and flipped through the pages like he'd seen it all before. "That helps," he said. "Puts timeline and intent on paper." He looked at me again. "Where's the shadow box?" "The missing tools." "I checked 2 pawn shops in Westchester," I said. "No luck yet. But it's gone." Sophia stepped out from the garage and offered something rare: help with logistics. "We can pull pawn records. The state keeps a searchable database. If he sold any of it legit, we'll find it." The detective nodded. "We'll start with local chains. You remember any serial numbers?" "I still have the receipt from Home Depot for the Milwaukee kit. The torque wrench had a tag too. I'll dig behind us." The locksmith's van pulled in. He hopped out with a mobile fob programmer and a new key. I paid cash, no more trusting anything digital, and watched as he cut and synced a fresh fob while I sat in the passenger seat with the manual open. I wiped the ECU, every old key, every previous fob, erased. The Camaro knew me and only me again. It felt like changing the locks on your life. The detective leaned against the door and looked over at Sophia. "You've been more helpful than most victims are." She shrugged. "If I don't close the loop, I could end up holding the bag. And also, it's just wrong. I don't like when people get hustled. It sticks in my gut." That was the end of that. No lecture, no big statement, just the truth. Back home, Mom had already boxed up Leo's stuff and set it by the door like a checkout line. She didn't cry. She didn't say much at all, just handed me a half-packed duffel and asked if he had any more shoes in the closet. Leo showed up late that night, quiet and empty-handed. He stared at the box like it had appeared by magic. "So, that's it?" he said. "You happy now?" I shook my head. "Nothing about this makes me happy." He turned to Mom. "You too. You need to sleep somewhere else tonight," she said. "Figure it out. Call a friend." He scoffed, grabbed the box, and walked out like he was doing us a favor by not yelling. Aunt Nora called an hour later. I didn't answer. Mom did. I heard her in the kitchen, switching from calm to cold in a single breath. "No, Nora. No more. He can't come back here." There was a pause. Then another. I stepped in and took the phone. She went from firm to fragile in 3 seconds. "I know he messed up," she said, "but don't let this ruin his future. Please, don't press it so hard he can't recover." "Leo ruined Leo," I said. "One bet, one lie, one signature at a time." Silence on her end. That night, Sunwave left a voicemail. A cheery woman said they were placing a 48-hour administrative hold on any repossession activity while they reviewed documentation and police reports. Translation. Sophia's fake sign and the detective's call worked. We'd bought time. I sat on the edge of my bed later, staring at the door. Mom walked by, paused, and asked if I wanted her to make tea. I told her no. I looked around the house and tried to measure the damage. What did I lose really? A car, tools, some cash, number. What I lost was worse. I didn't trust anyone in that house anymore, except my mother and my sister. And even with them, there was this crack in the foundation now. Small, silent, but always there. I wasn't sure if it could be fixed. We planned it simple. Meet at the Wynwood garage, get the car, drive it to my buddy Manny's warehouse in Doral, chain it behind locked gates, and put it under cameras I paid for. That was the plan. Nothing fancy. Just control the car, control the chaos. Simple lasted about 7 seconds. The second Sophia rolled up in her Tacoma and unlocked the bay, another flatbed showed. Lights off. No branding. No paper. Just crept in like a thief trying to repo something that still had blood on it. The guy didn't even get out at first. Just rolled halfway onto the gravel, popped the truck into neutral, and started sliding skates under the Camaro's rear wheels like he had a permission slip from God. Sophia stepped right in front of him. "Move that jack 1 more inch and I swear I'll put your face on every scam blog in Florida." I blocked the bay door with my Civic, bumper tight to the threshold like a cork in a bottle. The guy stepped out, palms up. "Bro, don't make this ugly," he said, already annoyed like I was causing a scene. "You got repo paperwork?" I asked. He pulled out his phone and scrolled. "I got a text from dispatch. Said this plate pinged on Northwest 20th. Says it's clear for pickup." Sophia snorted. "A text? What are we doing? Snapchat repos now?" The detective pulled in behind us. Unmarked cruiser, window down. "Who's this?" "Tow guy," I said. "No paperwork." The detective got out and walked straight over. "You got a printed copy of the lien or court order?" The guy hesitated. "It's from Sunwave." They said. "I'm not asking what they said. I'm asking what you have." The tow driver held out his phone, screen forward. The detective didn't even look at it. "You're not touching this car unless you've got a clean lien and a signed repo order. Text messages don't hold up in court. We've got a ping," the driver insisted. "We got this plate on cam 2 days ago." "Plate doesn't mean possession," the detective said. "Now back up and wait, or I'll call in vehicle crimes, and they'll drag your truck to impound just for fun." The guy looked at me, then at Sophia. She wasn't moving. "Pop the door," the detective said to me. I unlocked the Camaro and opened the driver's side. He leaned in and took a photo of the laser etch on the sill. See, price. April 19th, then held up my license and snapped another photo of the two side by side. After that, he crouched and used his phone light to shoot the Gator sticker under the fuel door. The tow driver tried to play slick and sneak a VIN shot on his phone, but the detective caught him mid-tilt. "You take one more picture and you're getting booked for interference in an active case." The guy muttered something under his breath and walked off. He packed up slow, like he was hoping we'd change our minds, and let him roll the car out just to make the tension stop. We didn't. Once he left, we filled out a property release. The detective wrote it out on a carbon form like it was still 1998. Sophia handed me the keys like it was a handoff in a relay. No speech, no ceremony, just a clean transfer of control. I sat down in the driver's seat and gripped the wheel. It hit me hard. This dumb, wide-chested emotional wave like I just pulled someone out of a fire. The Camaro smelled like oil and sun-baked vinyl. Same seat position. Same feel. Except now I was scared to drive it. I followed the detective's cruiser out of Wynwood with Sophia tailing us in her truck. We took back roads through Little Havana and Coral Way. No highways, nothing fast. I kept checking the rearview mirror every few blocks. Not because I thought the repo guy would return, but because once people get your VIN, they treat your car like a public asset. At Manny's warehouse in Doral, we backed it in through a rolling steel gate. He wasn't there, just texted me the code to the yard and told me to lock up behind myself. We parked it in the corner under a giant overhang. Sophia helped me loop a chain around the axle and connect it to the wall bolt like we were storing evidence. I ran 3 wise cams. One from the ceiling, one off the fence, and one pointed straight at the hood. Nobody was getting that car without me seeing it. Sophia leaned against the wall while I dusted off the rearview mirror and tried to decide if this still felt like my car. "I'll testify if this goes to court," she said. "Not just about the fake sale, about the lien too." I kept everything I turned to her. "What do you want out of all this? Seriously?" She scratched her shoulder and looked away like she'd already rehearsed it. "My 3200 back, my name out of it. That's it." You'll get both, I said. I better, she said, because I'm not chasing this for sport. We locked the bay behind us. I made sure the alarm panel read green. Then we stepped outside into the heat again, both quiet for a second like we weren't sure what part of the day we were in anymore. On the drive home, the detective called. "Found your tools," he said. I sat up straight in the seat. "Where?" "Milwaukee kit and torque wrench. Hialeah shop logged them a week ago. Serial numbers matched. We also found a catalog photo from a different pawn shop. It's your dad's shadow box. Looks like the guy didn't even try to hide it." I stared ahead at the road, trying to feel something. Relief? Anger? Gratitude? It was all scrambled. "Want me to file recovery paperwork?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Please, file everything." He hung up without another word. That kind of cop. The kind who didn't need to say, "I got you," because he already did. I got back home just as the sun dipped under the power lines. Parked the Civic at the edge of the driveway and didn't move. Didn't get out. Just sat there. Engine off. Keys in my lap. Mom came out with a dish towel over her shoulder and knocked on the window. "You want dinner?" she asked. "I made arroz con pollo." I opened the door, stared at her and said nothing. She looked me in the eyes. "We'll be okay." I wanted to believe her, but that Camaro had just survived a repo, a forged title, a lien scam, and a family betrayal, and I still wasn't sure if I wanted to drive it again or push it into the ocean. The pawn shop in Hialeah sat between a shuttered bakery and a vape store that looked half abandoned. The bars on the windows weren't for decoration. Inside it smelled like old electronics and regret. The clerk was maybe 50, balding, glasses fogged up from the humidity. The detective showed him my photos and serial numbers without a word. The guy didn't even blink, just nodded and walked to the back like he'd done this 100 times. When he came out, he had the Milwaukee kit in one hand and my torque wrench in the other, tags still on both. "Guy said he needed quick cash," the clerk told us. "Said his cousin gave him the tools before going overseas." Sounded shaky, but I got the ID scan if you need it. He slid over a printout with Leo's name, address, and license photo clear as daylight. The pawn ticket said he got $240 and a store credit slip for 30 more. The detective snapped a photo, then turned to me. "You sure these are yours?" "They're mine," I said. "Down to the scratch on the wrench handle." We logged them into evidence with a hold tag and left with a receipt for court. Sophia would add the numbers to her file. I'd add them to my disappointment. The second shop had charm. Cuban flags, dusty guitars, rosaries next to Rolex knockoffs. The owner had a gold tooth, and the attitude of someone who'd seen enough families fall apart to stop being surprised. "You looking for something stolen or something borrowed?" he asked. "Army shadow box," I said. "Wood frame, velvet inside. A few coins, insignia, dog tags." He gave me a long look, then walked behind the counter and pulled it from under a blue towel like it was a damn relic. "I didn't put it on the shelf," he said. "Didn't want it going to a clown." That sentence hit different. Made me like him instantly. We paid to get it back with the same kind of paperwork. Hold and receipt, logged under case number. I carried it out like it weighed more than it did, sat in the front seat of my Civic and held it in my lap the whole way home, like it might vanish if I blinked too hard. Back at the house, Aunt Nora was waiting on the porch with her arms folded, and that tight jaw she used to wear during church fights. I didn't even greet her, just walked past and unlocked the front door. "Cody, wait, can we talk?" she called. I didn't turn around. "About what?" She followed me inside. "Is there a way to make this go away?" I stopped cold by the stairs. "You mean pay off Sunwave? Hand Sophia some cash and pretend Leo learned a lesson?" "I'm just asking if there's a path that doesn't ruin him." I turned and looked at her. She looked tired now, smaller, the kind of small that doesn't come from height. "He did that on his own," I said. "Nobody made him pawn my dad's stuff. Nobody told him to forge a lien." She didn't answer, just stood there while the words sank. That night, the detective called with the state attorney's offer. He didn't sugarcoat it. Grand theft auto, scheme to defraud, title fraud, and uttering a forged instrument, he said. First offense. Probably probation if you don't push for prison. I leaned against the counter and stared at my keys. What if I want conditions? Depends what they are. I want restitution. All of it. Full amount. To me and Sophia. I want him in counseling for gambling. I want a written apology on record. I want 450 hours of community service that isn't sweeping a hallway once a week. And the title loan? Voided. Wiped clean. There was a pause. Then, I'll pass it up the chain. That's a fair list, Sunwave's legal team called the next morning. All chirpy and fake nice. We understand there's been some confusion, the guy said. We'd like to work with you. Maybe you could ratify the lien. Confirm the loan happened under mutual understanding. I didn't even finish the call. Just said, "Hold, please." Then patched the detective in. He used words like criminal liability, fraudulent instrument, and civil exposure. The Sunwave guy folded faster than a card table in a windstorm. Later that week, Leo texted me from a number I didn't recognize. "Can we talk?" Aunt Nora's. Just 5 minutes. I didn't owe him anything. But I went. Not for closure, for confirmation. I wanted to see his face when paperwork met consequences. He looked rough, eyes sunken, shoulders slumped, hair greasy like he hadn't touched a shower in days. He opened with, "I'll make it right. Just don't ruin me." I sat across from him, box of documents in my lap. "I didn't ruin you," I said. "Parlays and bad friends did." He looked down like that was the first real sentence anyone had said to him in weeks. I laid it out. One path. That was it. Plea deal. Suspended adjudication. 2 years probation. 450 hours of community service. Full restitution. $11,800 total between me and Sophia. Court breakdown. $3,200 to Sophia. $8,600 to me, covering the locksmith and ECU fob reprogramming, pawn redemption for my dad's shadow box, secure storage fees, and documented property loss. Recorded apology. Proof of counseling. No contact with Sunwave. He stared at the carpet like it might shift into something better. "That's it?" he asked. "No jail?" "That's mercy," I said. "Don't mistake it for forgiveness." He nodded like he was agreeing to take out the trash. I stood up, grabbed the file, and left before I said something I couldn't pull back. There's a kind of anger that doesn't yell. It doesn't slam doors. It just settles in your chest and lives there, like a second heartbeat that reminds you exactly who someone really is. 24 hours before the plea hearing, I got an email from Broward County with the subject line, "Photo enforcement notification, red light violation." At first, I thought it was a mistake. Wrong plate, wrong car, but I opened it anyway. It was my Camaro, clear as a billboard, front plate visible, time-stamped 10 days after Leo sold it to Sophia. The camera caught the exact second it rolled through a red light at Sunrise and University. Nighttime shot, grainy, but just good enough to show the driver's left arm resting on the door. Skinny, light skin, little tattoo on the wrist. A cross with 2 dots underneath it. I knew that tattoo. I'd seen it since Leo was 19. He hadn't just sold my car. He'd kept a key and borrowed it for late-night drives like it was still his. Like nothing was sacred. I printed the ticket. Then I pulled the ring cam footage from that night, 1:11 a.m. Leo easing the Camaro into the driveway like he was parking a stolen rental. In and out, clean and fast. I zipped both into a folder and emailed them to the detective with no commentary. Just one subject line, use. 10 minutes later, Sophia sent me a Facebook screenshot. It was Leo again, this time under a burner account, trying to sell a sunburst Les Paul in a private Miami musicians group. I recognized the guitar immediately. It wasn't his. It belonged to Marco, my buddy since middle school. He'd asked me to hang on to it while he moved to Texas and sorted out his divorce. Told me, don't let it get dusty or stolen. Well, guess which one happened? I called Marco. Told him everything, straight and flat. He didn't even yell. Just got real quiet and said, "Okay, I'm filing my own report." The detective called later that day. "We've got enough for a sting. He's meeting a buyer at a pawn shop on Coral Way tomorrow morning. You want to be there?" I did. We set up across the street in an unmarked Civic that smelled like mildew and takeout. The detective sat in the front, another officer in the back pretending to scroll Instagram. I just watched. Leo walked in with the case strapped over his shoulder like he was carrying a gym bag. Swagger was back, half charged, like he hadn't just dug a deeper hole, but found a new one and brought his own shovel. An undercover already waiting inside asked to see the serial number. Leo opened the case and flipped the latches. That's when 2 uniforms came in. No sirens, no shouting. Just quiet cuffs and a pat down. Leo didn't resist, didn't run, didn't even flinch. He just lowered his head like he finally understood what the bottom looked like. 5 minutes later, Aunt Nora called, crying, voice cracking like static through the line. "He was just trying to get quick money," she said. "He didn't mean for it to turn into this." I didn't say anything for a while. Then I told her the truth. "I know you're hurting, but he's not a victim here. He did this. Over and over." She said nothing after that, just breathing and silence. The detective met me later that afternoon and walked me through the fallout. The red light ticket and the attempted guitar sale kill any story he was just confused or acting under pressure, he said. He kept using the car. That proves intent. State attorney's office is adjusting the deal. What changes? I asked. Same suspended sentence, but more community service. Stricter restitution schedule. And no room for more mistakes Sunwave finally folded to. Their lien release came in by email that evening. Official, clean, notarized. The repossession request was formally withdrawn, and the detective forwarded the notice with a note that said, "One less snake in the grass." Marco got his guitar back on the spot. The pawn shop hadn't listed it yet, hadn't even logged it fully. The clerk handed it over with a grunt and a shrug. Marco hugged me outside the shop like all of this was somehow my fault, and then he apologized a second later like a real friend does. "You didn't do this," he said. "But damn, man, I'm sorry it happened to you." That night, I took the Camaro out for a spin. Not far, just around the block. Up past 40th, down Coral Way, a right onto 87th. Windows down, no music, just the engine. It still sounded like mine, low, deep, confident. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like a rescue, like dragging a body out of a flood and wondering if it'll breathe again. I pulled back into the driveway and shut off the engine, just sat there in the dark. I didn't know if I still loved the car or if I hated what it had been dragged through, but I knew one thing for sure: nobody else had a damn key. In court, Leo stood there in a wrinkled button-down and dress shoes that didn't look like his. The public defender did most of the talking. Leo just kept his eyes down and nodded when prompted. He pled no contest to everything: grand theft auto, title fraud, forged instrument, scheme to defraud. The judge, an older guy with a clean bench and no patience for theatrics, withheld adjudication. Then he laid it out, flat and hard. 30 months probation, he said. 500 hours of community service. Enrollment in Gamblers Anonymous. Restitution of $11,800. Monthly payments, no skips. He leaned forward and looked Leo straight in the eye. "If you miss 2 payments, you will see the inside of a cell." And I believed him. There was no applause, no sigh of relief, just paper being signed and a bailiff calling the next case. Sophia caught me in the hallway afterward. No hug, no handshake, just a short nod that said we were square. "I got my $3,200 in the order," she said. "Thanks for backing that." "You earned it," I said. She turned to leave, then looked back. "Try not to let another cousin house sit." Outside the courthouse, Mom hugged me with both arms, tight and full, like she finally let herself breathe. When she pulled back, she turned to Aunt Nora and didn't wait. "No more lies," she said. Aunt Nora nodded like a student called to the front of the class. No protest, no excuse. Back home, we changed the locks that afternoon. New codes, new cams over the garage, the back gate, and the side walkway. Leo's stuff, what was left of it, had already been packed weeks ago, but this made it real. Mom told him over the phone, straight and calm, "You can't come by anymore. Not for holidays. Not for anything. You need to figure things out without dragging us back into it." He didn't argue, just said, "Okay." Renee forwarded me the full message thread where she warned him not to touch the car. 3 separate times, clear as glass, no fluff. That didn't fix anything, but it cleared her name. Took her out from under the shadow Leo tried to drop on all of us. In the weeks that followed, the rest of the family started calling it the Camaro thing, like slapping a name on it made it smaller. Church ladies showed up with trays of lasagna and pastelon, like we'd had a death in the family. One even wrote a card that said, "Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. God sees your heart." I didn't have the energy to explain that this wasn't about forgiveness. It was about not getting robbed twice. I took the torque wrench back to the garage and set it on the same peg my uncle drilled into the wall 20 years ago. The shadow box went on the shelf above my desk in the office. Dad's insignia, coins, tags. It felt heavier than before. The Milwaukee kit I placed high on the tool rack, top shelf. Not for use. Just to see it. Just to remind myself what mine means. Work gave me space. Anika, my manager, told me, "Take the week. Get your head straight." And Raj, my teammate, covered every Berlin call without saying a word about it. That kind of quiet loyalty sticks. It's what real people do. Leo started his community service at Crandon Park, picking up trash, orange vest. Mom drove by one day just to see for herself. She didn't honk, didn't roll down the window, just drove past and went home. Aunt Nora came by a week later and asked to speak face to face. I met her on the porch. "I was wrong," she said. "I covered for him because I thought I was protecting him. But I wasn't. I was just making the fall worse. I didn't soften. Didn't let her off easy." "You need to stop enabling," I said. "Not for me. For him. Or else he's going to become the kind of man who thinks theft is a solution." She nodded once, then left without saying goodbye. I Venmo'd Sophia for the storage fees she'd fronted during the Repo mess. She tried to refuse it. Said, "We're good." But I told her, "I don't want loose threads." She took the payment after that. I stood by the front door later that night, keys in hand, staring at the empty space Leo used to sleep in. The mess was technically over, legally settled, papered and stamped. But family damage doesn't clear that clean. A month after court, I took the Camaro into the bay, swapped the tires myself, replaced the cabin filter, and gave the whole thing a new ceramic coat. Not because it needed to shine. I just needed to touch something that belonged to me that wasn't tangled in excuses or guilt. Under the hood, next to the VIN plate, I bolted in one small metal tag I had custom made. Stamped in it, Winwood Return 08.14. It wasn't pretty, no chrome, just bare aluminum, but I liked that it was quiet. Quiet and mine. Sophia didn't say much after court. We kept it simple. Texts every few weeks, sometimes just photos. One day she sent a clean $1 ZL parked under a palm tree in Hollywood, said nothing but dropped a thumbs up emoji. I replied with, "Looks real," and that was all either of us needed. Leo worked his hours like he had something to prove. Mowed easements, cleaned sidewalks, bagged trash at the parks. His checks came in on time, exactly how the court ordered. First 2 months he added notes to the envelopes, little apologies, thin attempts at conversations. After that, nothing, just the checks. I liked it better that way. Silence meant shame might have finally started doing its job. Mom made a rule after all that. Holidays were for people who didn't steal from us. It wasn't personal, just policy. The first few dinners were quiet, fewer chairs, no laughter from the back patio. But nobody checked their coat pockets. Nobody hid their wallets in the laundry room. That counted. Aunt Nora never pushed back. She stayed polite, brought flan when she came over, and kept her eyes on her plate when the conversation drifted close to anything that might snap a thread. She never asked for money, never mentioned Leo. That was new. The title loan letters stopped after the detective flagged their lien as fraud during the state review. A month later, Sunwave officially removed it from the system. The detective sent a final email with a PDF closing the case. I printed it and filed it next to my dad's shadow box like it was part of the family archive. About a year after everything, another red light ticket hit my mailbox. Same plate, same intersection. This time the timestamp matched me. I'd rolled through after a late grocery run. I looked at the photo, laughed out loud in the kitchen, then paid the $65 without blinking. It was the most honest ticket that car had gotten in 2 years. And this time the only key was on my hook. That mattered more than anything. People sometimes ask why I didn't push for prison, why I didn't finish the job or teach him a lesson. I tell them this. I didn't want revenge that made me small. I wanted consequences that stuck and a real chance for the money to come back. Prison makes a headline. Restitution makes you feel it. I'm 56 now. I drive less like a kid, less flex, more focus. I listen to the engine, feel the wheel, and think about the difference between trust and supervision. That line? It's thinner than I thought, but it's stronger when you respect it. If you're wondering about the last loose thread, Leo tried one more time. Found an old DSLR in my closet, posted it online under a fake name, listed it in a local gear group. Same move, same pattern, but the buyer he tried to meet was the same guy from the guitar sting. Small city, bad luck. The cops didn't even wait, knocked before he could finish the handoff. That didn't add charges, just killed the excuses. Even Aunt Nora didn't flinch this time. She came over the next day, dropped off leftovers, and when Mom asked how Leo was doing, she said, "He needs help, not shelter." That's the first time I believed she meant it. I keep the Camaro keys on a hook in my office now, just above the shadow box. When I grab them, I feel the weight, and I know exactly who they belong to. Your cousin forged your name and sold your car. Press charges or keep it family. Answer in comments, and please like, subscribe. It's huge for us. One click for you.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.